with a company that had produced a movie called Unfriended, and that movie also took place on screens. And in my meeting with them, they were asking me if I knew any filmmakers would be great partners to make more content that would be kind of unconventional and utilizing screens. So of course I thought of this guy. And when I came on, their ask to us was we wanted to follow up Unfriended, but we didn't want to follow it up with a normal feature film. We wanted to do it with basically an anthology feature film that's comprised of a bunch of different short films, all of which take place on screens. And immediately my first response was like, yes, because that sounds way more creatively interesting to me than a feature film that takes place on screens. Mark my words, I will never make a feature film that takes place on screens. But honestly, I did. The joke fell flat. Just want to say that was a joke. So you know, we left the room and we came up with an idea for what ended up being an 8-minute version of Searching. About a month and a half later, Seb and I just happened to text one another about it. And we really liked it. We were really excited because it didn't feel like a gimmick, which was one of the things that like we were so afraid of. Like, is this going to feel like a gimmick? Is this going to be like a gimmick? We found an 8-minute idea that we really liked. And so we put together 3 pages back and we sent it to the production company that wanted it. And they were like, I would happen to be in LA a couple of weeks later for a Google photo shoot, and they called me to this meeting, and all of a sudden it was me and Seb at a big boardroom with like a bunch of executives and financiers looking at us and like, what are we doing here? And they were like, we don't want to make the project as you guys wrote it. We want to turn it into a feature. Seb and Aneesh will pay you guys to write it. Seb, you can produce it. Aneesh, you can direct your first movie. We'll finance the entire thing. What do you guys say? And in one crazy moment, immediately I said no. And it was one of those weird things because like Seb was on this side, was like kicking me underneath the table, and like he was like heat was radiating from his like right side, and like steam was coming out. And he's like, you know, what he means is like, no way I'm ever been given this opportunity. But you know, in that moment, it felt like what we were being asked to do was take a concept that we had found a really cool way to turn into a not gimmick, and then stretch it right back into a 90-minute gimmick again. And make a movie because another movie was a hit, as opposed to ours having any artistic merit to exist. So we said, you know, no, and Seb said, we'll get back to you. And we left the room. And we kept talking about how enormous of an opportunity this was, and how no first-time filmmaker ever gets told, here's the money to make a movie, despite, like, no matter what the parameters of the ask for was. So we kept talking about it, we're like, if we hit a wall, we hit a wall. We don't need to make this movie, but let's at least pay respect to the opportunity to talk about it. And for about a month and a half to 2 months, we never found a way to the story, and we were pretty sure that we weren't going to do it. Until one day, I had a really weird idea for an opening scene, and I texted Seb being like, hey, I have a really weird idea for an opening scene. And Seb texted me back saying, I have a weird idea for an opening scene. And we get on the phone with each other, and we pitch each other the exact same opening scene, which is now the opening scene of the film, which is that sort of like Google commercial meets Pixar's Up. That's how we like to pitch it. But there was something when we kind of came up with that idea that like felt all of a sudden that we were doing something new, and that we were doing something that, despite taking place on a computer screen or screens, felt emotional, engaging, cinematic. You know, like our goal with the opening scene, and tell us if this actually worked, was that hopefully after those first 5 minutes, you would just forget what you're watching is taking place on screen. Did that work? All right, sick. So that's the idea.
They didn't have the option to say no. It was
Sorry about that.
But I think that's amazing, this idea that you got offered this opportunity, and the first instinct is to try and really weigh what it means to try to take advantage of this opportunity, and if you're giving it the due service and the due creation of the process to that opportunity. I love that story of really weighing the option there. I think what's interesting to see as well is that you see it's so unconventional in the technicality of it. I think just the technical challenges of shooting something like this, of reacting and emoting on screen to presumably just a random camera in a way that you have to act as if it's either handheld or it's POV or it's something that you have to, it's not a conventional shooting process. Can you guys kind of walk through the challenges that you guys had in trying to ensure that you're getting an authentic experience while doing a cinematic production?
I can frame what John was doing, and then John, you can talk about what you did. Cool. Great. Awesome. Plan. Basically, this was a very complicated movie to make. But the way we started off by doing this, and Seb gave this really, really cool idea about 8 weeks before we started that we should just make this movie before we even make this movie. So before we even cast the film, before we crewed up for anyone who was going to be on set, the first people that we hired 7 weeks before production were the editors. And when we brought the editors in, they were literally we took them to a room, which would be their home for the next 2 years, opened up iMac and opened up a premiere time on the editing software and said, go. And literally for the next 7 weeks, they screen captured the internet, started doing text messages in the vein of the movie from the script. And by the end of 7 weeks, we had an hour and 40-minute cut of the film starring me playing every single role, like the dad, the daughter, the mother, the brother, talking to myself, because we needed to understand there's 2 cameras in the movie. There's the camera of the stuff that you shoot, in the world of the movie, and then there's the way that we are framing that. And how those 2 work together literally informs what we shoot. So we needed to know that, and then most of all, on set, John, whose character is literally operating a computer, he's not acting up against a fully realized world. He's acting up against basically a black screen with a GoPro behind it. So he needs to know where every single button is, where every cursor needs to go, where every message is popping up, where every chat window opens up. So he's basically acting up against nothing, while I'm coming in and being like, great take, John. As you can see in this temp video, though, you need to move your cursor a little more to the left. Take 2. So John was basically acting up against nothing.
How was that experience?
First of all, thank you so much for being here and for staying and being here for Q&A. And thank you, New York. It's a very unique thing to show a movie in New York. But anyway, that's the coconut pie from Momofuku Sam speaking. I recommend it. It was unusual, as Aneesh said, we were looking at a screen. It was sort of like, the best illustration of it for me was, we're looking at a green screen on the Enterprise, but it's as though the green screen extended everywhere, and there was nothing to push, no buttons to push, and there were no actors there. And so it was a very unusual acting challenge. The margins of error were very tiny, and there was only one angle really. So that was, in a storytelling sense, I felt like there were some tools removed from my box. So that was just a puzzle we had to solve, but there was fun in that too. We were playing with depth, and each frame is a little stage, and you have to find out what the parameters of that stage are. And sometimes your stage is large, and sometimes it's small. But what was really unique was I think I had to depend on my director in a more intense way than in any other film that I've done, because there was nothing there, and he had to make sure that everything was very specific for me. And I'll probably never ask more questions of the director, and because there were no sets, there were no other people, and we just sort of had to. I had to trust him in a very complete way.
Awesome. I think because we're here at the Asian American Film Festival, it's very apparent. I think even from me watching. The first thing you've been seeing a family that looks like mine on screen in a way in which they interact with one another, and it isn't a cliche, or it isn't something where you have to justify why an Asian American family is on screen, and I think that's really powerful. I think when seeing the credits roll and seeing this Korean American family live their lives, the first thing that kind of stuck out to me was the director and the writer and the producer don't seem to have Korean American names. And yet I felt so connected and felt it was such a relatable family. In trying to create a film about an Asian American family, what were the considerations that you guys had to put in order to really try to keep it culturally relevant while still trying to balance the fact that this is still a very classic thriller?
Can I say something before they answer that? Which is there was something, there's a big idea about a small deal, which is seeing an Asian American family is a simple thing that is very impactful, and it's just the visual, and not really explaining it, not justifying it, as you say, but it is also what made your starring John Cho thing very impactful was the visual of an Asian American face on a poster that said a lot in a moment. That said more in that moment than an entire Asian American Studies class could, which was right there. Don't you agree? This isn't weird. I mean, I think that was a supposition behind each image. And the film asks you to say, it doesn't explain anything. It just says, don't you agree? This isn't weird. This is normal, isn't it? And you agree very quickly. And I think that's part of it. The simplicity is the brilliance of it. Now I will allow you to speak.
Yeah, I mean, for us, my favorite movies growing up were like the thrillers, the action movies, the mysteries, and all that stuff. And growing up, I never saw myself. And I know that doesn't say the same thing. But like in those movies where race and culture and skin color really had nothing to do with it, anyways. And when we got the opportunity to tell a movie, we figured why not take this opportunity to do something that we've always wanted, which is to see a version of ourselves on screen and never justify it, never, I feel like so much of it, like you were saying, well, it's just like so much of casting anybody who isn't white in a movie, you have to explain why. There has to be this element of what is the Asian American hook in this film? Why is it really Asian American? Was the question that we got. What's the Asian American thing about this? And it's nothing. There's nothing about it. That to us is the victory of the movie, and to us that's why we kind of wanted to fight that. And then putting it in a very, very cinematic and traditional classic thriller concept was basically a way of just telling a story and letting our kind of agenda go straight into the background.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, just the idea that seeing yourself represented is justification enough. Just seeing that alone, it's people will understand all the cultural implications of that. We wanted to open it up to the audience to see if anyone had any questions for our trio here. Someone?
Master.
Master! Steps in.
Hey guys.
Hey.
Just wanted to ask what the background was in setting the film in San Jose. It's my hometown. 408 shout out.
It is also my hometown. That's literally, it's perfect. And I grew up there, so obviously I knew it. You're probably able to see what we mixed to get names, like Evergreen being Evergreen High School and Silver Creek and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, it's also the capital of Silicon Valley, and we thought oh, that's a cool backdrop to this movie that takes place on screens, take place in the heart of Silicon Valley. In addition to likely having the specificity of having grown up there.
I can probably yell it. What was your budget and how did you raise it?
I just told you that.
$25. Our budget was probably a lot larger than you might imagine it was, but also probably a lot lower than you might imagine. In all honesty, I hope it came across as a big movie, but it was very much, it is a studio movie now, we got worldwide distribution, but as it was, in its inception, it was an indie film, right? We're indie filmmakers, you guys just saw the movie, there's aerial shots, there's driving stuff, there's lakes and ravines and entire childhoods in 2 minutes and crowds. We shot the movie in 13 days. If that gives you an idea of so just to kind of give you an idea of this was not a movie that was made with dollar signs. It was a movie that was literally made with blood, sweat, and tears. And heart emojis. It's exactly what it is. It was we made it with a group of about 11 filmmakers. All of us graduated recently from film school. It was obviously Aneesh's first film. Like, it was kind of like, this was a film that had to get made despite the budget instead of because of the budget. That is a, way of dodging your question. Did that dodge your question okay? Okay, thank you. Next question.
What about Timur
Sure. So the question was about Timur Bekmambetov, who's a very productive, prolific Russian director, writer, and producer. He was the guy who owned that company, Vaslov, that I mentioned earlier. It was his company who financed this film, actually. And he's a very big proponent of screen films, movies that take place on screens. He produced Unfriended and the new one that recently came out, and he just directed one himself. He was very much a mentor to us. He really believes in this format, and to his credit, he kind of has like a rule book for how they make these computer movies. In fact, right when we kind of got on with the project, they presented to us their 3 commandments for how you make your movies. Rule number one was the whole movie has to be one big wide shot. Number 2, the whole movie's got to be in real time. And number 3, it's got to be like one person's computer. And when they presented that to us, we said, why? To Timur's credit, we wanted to make something a bit different. We wanted to have a bit more animation and more of a cinematic feel. And again, because he's such an awesome guy and so supportive of us and so successful in his own right, he gave us all the creative space we wanted. And he just gave us the best kind of support any kind of thing that we could want, which was his support.
And we had a question over yonder.
Hello. I was wondering for John, what about the script excited you and what made you want to go on this journey with these 2 guys? And also for Aneesh, what made you excited about Debra Messing? Because I was really excited to see her in a role like this, and the twist was crazy.
For me, the script was, I think the attraction was that it was a very classically written genre film. And it was a thriller. Partly, I have been concerned that cinema is just becoming very top and bottom heavy, and we're missing, there are entire genres that are sort of shriveling up, and one of them is the thriller genre. And I grew up on them, and some of my favorite movies are thrillers, and so this was an opportunity to play in that space. And then the character was something that was very compelling. I will admit that the conceit was something that scared me off, and I did say no initially because of that conceit, and I didn't think that we could get over the hurdle. And then after meeting with Aneesh, I felt convinced that it was a risk worth taking, and that maybe there was a path forward, but then he showed me what he was planning, and that assured me that it was going to be cinematic. I was afraid that it was going to be something that we should watch on our phones, but that's not what this is. I think it's a communal experience, and it's meant to dramatize in a large way the lives that we're living. We are living our lives inside these devices, and I think it's worth watching. It's worth blowing up on the screen, like all our other previous experiences have been blown up onto this screen, because that's how big our dreams and our emotions are.
Debra, it's exactly the reason that you kind of mentioned. I thought, it was so cool. My favorite casting, our favorite kind of casting is when you cast somebody who you don't see as like this kind of a role. And Deborah's like such, her from Will Grace, it's like she's so physical and very funny, and yeah, she's Will Grace, yeah. Yeah, so like to cast somebody against type like that is just super, super exciting. I think both for the filmmakers and for an audience member and for the actors themselves. I think it's just a cool opportunity to do something new. And I think when you can't kind of frame, when you don't know what to picture as like this person is going to do that, I think that's when you kind of get the most magic out of a performance. So it was just kind of fun to see her do something dark and very constrained and very limiting, when in reality she's like the most active, like physical person ever. Yeah. I just want to add one more thing to Deborah's performance, which is like the best part about it, is if you guys ever rewatch this film, which comes out August 24th, so you can probably do that. Her performance is phenomenal. I mean, like, if you rewatch the movie knowing what you find out at the end, you'll see all the crazy things she did in each work that they're on to kind of like how the performance is within a layer, within a layer, within 5 more layers.
So before we wrap up, I know everyone will go watch Searching again when it does come out in theaters. But I just want to ask, how else can people in this room support this film after they've gone and left today and are at work and talking about it with their friends? In what ways can they continue to support this film upon its release?
Yeah, I mean, this is like I said earlier, it's a movie that 5 people made in an editing room. So the more people talk about it and tell each other about it, like that's all the support we need. Specifically, if you guys like the movie, you guys can get on to whatever Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, whatever you use. And if you use #SearchingMovie and just write a review or whatever, it would be really appreciated. Also, because this is the cool part, the marketing of this movie is going to be super, super unique. And one of the things that we want to do with it is incorporate everyone who's getting a chance to see it early, which is you guys, into the trailers, into the commercials, and into the posters. So if you guys use #SearchingMovie and #SearchMyReview, both of those, #SearchingMovie and #SearchMyReview, and write something about it or record a video, ideally something nice, we'll probably use it. You'll see it in a trailer or commercial for the movie. But honestly, just your support. You know, it's a small movie. When it comes out, try and go see it. Maybe with some friends. Comes out August 24th, limited release in New York, and then 31st wide release.
Great, thanks so much, guys. So use #SearchingMovie, #SearchMyReview.
SearchMyReview, yeah.
Awesome. All right, thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks, guys, for coming.
And after the Q&A, I just want to encourage everyone to head over to Panelists House, where we'll be having the gala reception. There's also